Have you heard of one of the biggest myths in the business world? I'm talking about the one of the self made entrepreneur who grinded blood, sweat, and gears and did everything by themselves to get where they were. And spoiler alert, this just doesn't apply, and you don't actually have to be that person. In fact, in my experience, you'll go way further, way faster, and you'll feel so much more supported when you're really having a badass crew riding beside you who are going to back you up no matter what. So, today we're diving into the power of riding in a pack and why community collaboration and that real raw talk with other women entrepreneurs is what's going to keep your business going and moving forward and gaining momentum, even when you hit those inevitable bumps in the road and you just feel like stalling out. Having a badass community backing you up is really one of the things that makes the difference between stalling out completely and giving up and finding your confidence to roll the throttle and find that momentum again. So if you've been craving a next level sisterhood in business, then hang around, I've got your back. I really feel like the business world and entrepreneurship content in general really lies to us. And even like in college and university and school, like women are pitted against each other and told that in order to succeed, you have to knuckle down, really focus, work super hard, burn the fuck out, and just fly solo, climb that ladder. And then eventually you wake up one day, you look around and you're like, wow, I made it. I don't know that that's really happened to anyone that I know. In fact, I like to call this the solo rider trap. So, yes, obviously you can ride solo. You are capable. You are more than capable of doing this. But it's really, do you want to do this? Do you want to go through the blood, sweat, and gears to get there the hard way? And when I reflect on my business journey, this is certainly where I was 3-4 years ago when I started my business. I was working 12 to 16 hours a day in my office by myself. I didn't have community. I didn't know what I was doing. I was so green. Like, I was barely in gear one. It was like friction zone most of the time. I was grinding my gears at my laptop, Googling how to do things. Literally everything felt so hard and so challenging, like it was an uphill battle. And I really thought that was the way to do it. I thought that was the way to progress. And it was one night when I was up late and just completely exhausted, I found myself on the floor of my office crying, literally holding my legs, just being like, what the fuck am I doing? Why is this so hard? I quit my job. This is really way harder than I thought. And my husband walked in on me and was just like, what the fuck is going on? Are you okay? And I was so shaken because I felt like such a failure because everything was just so damn hard. But it was a huge turning point for me because I realized that I didn't want to do it alone anymore. And from that point on, I joined as many masterminds as I could. Any kind of accountability group that came through my inbox that was, announced in my network, I was like raising my hand, yes, I'm in. And this started with at first it was a free program. Then I upgraded to my friend's paid mastermind, which was phenomenal. And I was just having so much momentum. I started another one. I had a mastermind with 3 of my best friends, these accountability groups with my motorcycle friends who were also running businesses at the time. And I just felt like that sisterhood was really lifting me up at a time when I needed it the most. And I really credit the kind of first 2 years of my business to leaning on those women at that time to help me grow and get stronger. And in these groups, these masterminds are really weekly programs where you meet. It's very goal focused. You focus on, barriers or challenges that you're experiencing, but you also brainstorm collectively solutions. And when I was in these groups, I leveled up in so many ways. Just to give you an example of what we were doing at the time, we were getting better paying jobs. We were practicing interview questions. We were kind of getting feedback on job applications. We started a podcast in one of the groups, this podcast. We started at least 3 businesses. Some of us got pregnant. We supported each other through some really tough health challenges. And we all came out the other side stronger and better and bolder because we had each other to lean on. And we ultimately grew together because we were helping each other. And I really think of these masterminds, like when you have this badass crew, when you have your ride or dies, it accelerates your results. So it enables you to roll the throttle by tapping into collective wisdom, which is, the brains of everyone around us, to highlight our blind spots. And not just that, but to offer solutions that you wouldn't necessarily discover yourself. So I remember in one of these groups, it was my turn to talk, and I was like, well, I'm really having challenging times kind of getting through this breakthrough of wanting to share my message and how to kind of craft this in a way that makes sense to people, that resonates. And in that group, there was actually a branding and a marketing expert, a CEO of her own company, and she was able to, in the matter of minutes, share with me a couple high-level strategies that I wasn't aware of, that may have taken me years to actually figure out on my own, that I was then able to implement and start my YouTube channel a couple weeks after that. So especially in these groups that are run really well, they're going to focus on goals. They're also going to keep you accountable because it's really helpful to have a loving friend that you trust, someone that you consider to be a ride or die, to say, hey, how are you going this week? I know last week you committed to these actions. And lovingly just check in on your progress and any roadblocks that you'd be experiencing. It really does make a huge difference. And another advantage of tapping into the experience of your ride or dies and every person in this group is that you all bring different perspectives to the table, and you can all share a unique angle on a challenge that you're going through that's going to lead you to a breakthrough. So, maybe I'm approaching a big pothole on my route to where I want to go. And, I could swerve, I could stop, I could, do another action. Maybe I just kind of want to turn and go into the ditch. But with the help of that collective wisdom, they're going to say, hey, what about this one? What about this one? Have you considered this? And then through those kind of considerations, you can sort of navigate, oh, actually, this route seems more appropriate for my problem. I'm going to take that one and go there instead. And this really showed up for me when I was learning to ride a motorcycle 5 years ago. I really wanted to learn to ride, but I was the only woman I knew at that point in my life who was doing this, who was learning to ride a motorcycle, who was doing something different. And I didn't know anyone other than my husband who rode. So it was really tough to me to kind of get a foothold into that passion and into that world, because I just didn't have anyone to turn to and ask questions and say hey, what do you do in this situation? Or what kind of gear are you wearing? What about the sizing? Can you recommend any brands? So I knew that I had a lot to learn, and I knew that I wasn't going to do it by myself. So I threw myself in the deep end, and I looked into finding riding groups in the Twin Cities where I lived. And I was just okay, the ones that came up were the leaders. I joined the leaders. It was great. And then from there, I was able to tap into these experienced women riders who literally knew the route, who literally had all the answers. And it was such a breath of fresh air and a weight off my shoulders, just knowing that I didn't have to go alone. I didn't have to fly solo anymore. And I want to give you a couple ideas. If you're listening and you think, I really want to find my ride or dies, I want to find my crew who are going to be with me through, the bends and the curves in the road, but they're also going to be there for the sunsets and the sunrises. and the days where I feel totally confident. The first place that online that I have gone to is meetup.com. Is great for finding like-minded people with a specific niche of interest. So like a hiking group or, a business group or any kind of, bird watching, any sort of like very specific group, you'll probably find it there. Another one is Eventbrite. That's more specific and particular to like one-off events or like a weekly meetup, again, for a particular, demographic of people. I've also had really good success in Facebook groups. So if you have like a Facebook group in your local area that's maybe specific to mothers, it's maybe a mother support group, or even I've had great success finding friends through women's motorcycle groups locally. So what you want to do is you want to post a picture of yourself with, a photo of you kind of immersed in your hobby or within a business context that kind of reflects what your business is about, sort of the essence of, who you are. And then you're going to write a short bio, being very specific about, and keep it short. People don't have all day. Keep it short. Be specific about what you're asking for. So say, it could be, hey, I just moved to the area. I ride a Honda Africa Twin touring motorcycle. I love going on off-road adventures and enjoying nature. Does anyone want to join me on a 2-hour ride this Saturday to this state park? Very specific, very particular. You're either in or you're out. There is no in between. So that ask is very specific. And then you'll have people commenting saying, yes, oh my gosh, I love Hondas. Yes, I love riding in nature. I'm available Saturday. Like, what's your number? So these are going to be really quick, easy ways to kind of like go fishing for your people. And you're baiting the hook essentially with like a little about who you are, that you have that visual so they can kind of pick up on your vibration of, is this for me? Is this not? And they make the decision. Yeah, like I'm interested. I wanna hang out. The other way that you can find people is just Googling the groups in your area. So when I was riding motorcycles, I Googled women's motorcycle groups. Back then, there was pretty much one or two. The Leaders in the United States was like the preeminent women's motorcycle group and collective. I think from then there's been a million crop up, but that was the biggest one for me. So I joined that. The Iron Lilies subsequently, I also joined. And it's really easy. It's easy to sort of use these tools at your disposal to find your people. But also, I want to give a little bit of airtime to the fact that not everyone is going to be for you. And you're not going to be for everyone. And that's actually fine. That's actually great. The fact that your vibe is only going to be picked up by like-minded people who also vibe at that same frequency is actually great. And I want to tell you why. So in the riding community, there are so many subcultures within this one sport, within this one passion and industry, that it's easy to lose count. So there are the folk who love doing custom builds. That's a whole culture of like going to these conferences and shows where everyone's passionate and building their own motorcycle. There's the people who just really love choppers and like love that chrome and those massive ape hanger handlebars. There's the folk who are motocross, like diehard, love being on the trails, love the dirt. There's the people that love the retro, naked, like old school road bikes. And there are the Leaders, the group that I was talking about that I was in. There's also the Iron Lilies. That's another women's motorcycle group. There are even the groups that you've heard of, like the famous ones like Hells Angels. That's kind of another subset of group or gang within the motorcycle industry that attracts their own kind of people, right? So these groups, these subcultures, they all have a specific focus area and an interest that attracts them to each other to say like, hey, I'm into that. Let's hang out. Let's go for rides. And it's really the same with business. So at first, if you don't find your ride or dies in the first group that you join or that you're testing out, then keep trying until you find a group of folk that you want at your side, who you consider to be your ride or dies through everything, through the potholes, through the curves in the road, that you're really going to be with through all of it, because it doesn't happen straight away, and that is absolutely okay. I think it's actually preferential. You don't want to be everyone's cup of tea, because when you're everyone's cup of tea, you're actually no one's cup of tea, because you're probably diluting who you are in order to be accepted by everyone. I wanted to let you know about my new Badass Business Accelerator Circle. So this is built for this exact kind of ride. It's launching in May 14, and it's my newest accountability group. It's a gathering of badass business women committed to rolling the throttle on their goals, upshifting their manifestations, and cruising towards abundance in their businesses. So we go so much further, faster when we ride together. And by tapping into and using this collective wisdom and guidance as our fuel, the road ahead illuminates with an amazing grace and ease of a well-oiled engine. You're going to feel unstoppable with the wind at your back and a community of like-minded riders by your side who are going to back you up at every pit stop, ready to kickstart their engines in one loud roar. So check the show notes for the link if you want to ride with us. Kickstands are up May 14, and I only have 5 spots available for this ride. So it's pretty exclusive and very, very tight-knit group. So this episode has been about realizing that if you've fallen into the solo rider trap, that you're not broken, you're not struggling, you just have hit some roadblocks, and without that support of that collective wisdom of your riding crew and your ride or dies, that asking for help when you do have those groups, it's actually a power move, and it's not a weakness. It's going to be your strength. The other thing is, when you see that value in collaboration and that community, and you start to tap into these groups, you'll learn that having aligned besties like this can really spark that momentum, and it's going to really clarify faster everything that you needed to know on this journey ahead. It's going to help you reroute your map to the destination, to the goals that you're so deeply craving. And I really hope at the end of this episode, it's helped you to seek connection and to be inspired by these stories, because it's going to allow you to reach that next level. It's going to allow you to kind of break through those limits that you currently have and upshift into that life that you've wanted, getting all those goals that you see for yourself. And until next time, ride safe and keep living your freedom life.